Hi everyone, welcome once again to SCOM Encouragement Series. Today I will share with you from the Bible, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 12. Most of us know 1 Corinthians chapter 13 because I'm sure when you hear this verse, you know what Paul was talking about, love in this chapter. But there's a verse there in verse 13 that is often ignored or often bypassed because Paul was giving such a beautiful description of love in this passage that there is this verse that sometimes we don't put emphasis on it. But I find that this verse is one of the most encouraging verses in the Bible. Let me read it to you first. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 12. It says here, "For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known." So there are three things that we learn here. First is that we are only seeing in mirror dimly. In this world, when we live, we only see things not very clearly. During the time of Paul, the mirror is not like the mirror that we have now, which is very clear. When we look at ourselves in the mirror, we can see things clearly. But during those times, the mirror that they have is usually made from metal and they have to polish it and hammer it until you can see some reflection. And only actually rich people have mirror. And even that mirror, Paul says, for now we see in mirror dimly. It means that when we live in this world, we don't see things clearly. I mean, for us who wear glasses, you know what I mean, especially the one with thick glasses. When you take our glasses off, we can barely see anything at all. We are almost blind. We do not see things clearly. So the first part of this verse says that when we live in this earth, we may not see things clearly. I remember I became a Christian when I was 16. One of the biggest struggle I had and in deciding whether to follow Jesus Christ as my personal savior is the question I have about my father and my brother. My father passed away when I was 3 years old, and my brother when I was 9 years old. The struggle I had was, what happened to them? If I believe in Jesus, I'll go to heaven, but will I see them? What is going to happen to them? Am I going to be separated from them forever? I had a huge struggle with that one. So I was corresponding with someone in America doing Bible study, and so I asked that person this question. I said, "What's going to happen to them? Am I going to see them? Am I going to not see them ever?" So his answer to me was actually quite interesting. He said, "You have to believe that God is sovereign, and you have to believe that God is righteous God. We do not know if they have heard the gospel and rejected the gospel, or they have heard the gospel and actually accepted the gospel. We do not know. Only God knows. So if you believe that God is a righteous and just God, God will give them all the chances in the world to be in heaven or not." So for me, that question actually, that answer was actually quite reassuring for me. Just like this verse is very reassuring for me. It's the fact that I trust God will do the right thing. Same thing here. When we live in this world, we have lots of questions. We do not see why lots of things happen. Why do we get sick? Why do I have a boss that's so mean to me? Why do I have a relationship with my parents, my spouse, my kids that are not ideal? We have lots and lots of questions, and we don't see how it is going. How does it affect us? What does it mean when all these things happen? We have all these questions. Why? Why does it happen? What does it mean? How? All these questions we have. I mean, we as humans have lots of questions. We always have lots of questions, and that's one of the reasons I'm sure we're addicted to these long series soap opera, because we want to know what happened. Same thing in our lives. We actually want to know what happened. But here it says to us, we don't know what's happening in our life. most of the time. Actually, we see things dim. The old NIV version was, we see as in glass darkly. We don't see clearly. We don't know. We don't know why all these things happen. But the second part of it says, but then face to face. It says here, when we see God face to face, now I know in part, then I shall know fully. So when we see God face to face, we will know everything fully. That's amazing. When we see God face to face, all the questions that we have, why COVID? Why did I get sick? Why did I lose my job? All these things will be clear. We will know the reason why it happens. And I think Paul knows, he wrote this verse, so he knows exactly that this is going to happen. And for us, when we're reminded that this happened, it will help us live this life with contentment. Pastor Victor was talking about living a life of contentment last week, not going after the idols of the world, and having this assurance that when we see God face to face, everything will become clear, will help us to live this life of contentment and not be anxious and worried. Okay, why did this happen? Why me? Why did I lose the job? All these things will be clear when we see him face to face. St. Paul also said in another part of the Bible, he says, for me to live is Christ, to die is gain. The die is gain is a hard thing to understand. But if you read this verse, and he says that when we see God face to face, all the questions will be answered. We can see a glimpse of why to die is gain makes sense. You almost, when you think about it, you almost feel like, you know what? It's not bad if we leave this earth, because we'll see God face to face. And when we see God face to face, we'll have all the questions we have answered. All the questions we have will be answered. I mean, I don't know about you. I have lots of questions. There are lots of questions still in my mind. So I know when I meet God one day, these are the questions I'm going to ask him. And guess what? These questions will be answered clearly. There's a song, I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I'm not sure if you know this song. But after reading this verse, I can almost sing the song. I can see clearly now that I know I will see God face to face. That helps us to live this life not worrying about, not having so many questions about what's going to happen. Why did this happen? Because we will see God face to face, and when we see God face to face, we will, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. I will know fully why all these things happen. I hope this verse encouraged you just as it has encouraged me. Thank you for listening.